And welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a business, parenting, and leadership under pressure. And of course, an author too, and the author of the book, Preemie Parents, none other than Miss Tami Gaines.
Hi, Daniel.
Welcome, Miss Tammy on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I
Sure,
miss?
sure. So, hi, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm ecstatic to be here. I am coming to you live from New Jersey. I am the very proud mom, single mom of four kids. My youngest has special needs, and that's what this story is really about my twins, but we'll get back to that. Um, I am also an entrepreneur. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, and I love teaching people how to identify their side hustle and turn it into a real business. I do speaking and training in complex environments. I bring calm to the storm, and like you said, Daniel, I'm a very proud author of Preemie Parents.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Tammy. Thank you. And today, let's talk about the book itself. Let's start with the title core idea: Grow with your premature baby. This is just a parallel journey. In what ways our parents fundamentally transform and forge grow during the NICU and experience and beyond?
So the name of the book is Preemie Parents: 26 Ways to Grow with Your Premature Baby. And the 26 ways to grow is really the spiritual side of this NICU journey. If you've never gone through it, you are immediately thrust into the scariest, most unpredictable environment that you could possibly imagine. And some parents are there just for a couple of days, but then there's parents like me I was in that environment for 18 months of ringing bells and bad news and then good news. I had two in the hospital and two at home, and I was navigating a divorce. So, in that very compressed time, I feel like under pressure, I had no choice but to change my perspective on my situation and to approach it from a place of positivity, I would say. And a lot of all the lessons that I sort of found for myself, I put in the book.
Yes, positivity. We love that, Miss Tammy. The Nico environment can make parents feel like visitors in their own child's life. What is the first most crucial mindset shift a parent can make to move from feeling like a spectator of a central member of the care team?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I think there's two reasons for that. One reason that they feel like they're a spectator is because we actually are spectators when they're in the hospital. Believe it or not, legally, your baby is custody of the hospital until you take them home, which, fun fact, I learned that along the way.
Hmm.
But it's very scary. So I think some people's reaction is to just stay back. Like, I'd rather sit on the sidelines and let other people deal with this. Um, like literally, I think it's emotional, and depending on what kind of hospital you're in, they're not always welcoming you. They don't always want your input, so you sort of have to force yourself on them. But I'll say this: the best way to stop feeling like you're on the sidelines in your child's care is to actually intentionally get involved. Become an advocate, demand daily meetings with the doctors. And if they can't do that, show up when they round. So I knew exactly what time the morning doctors rounded, and I knew what time the evening doctors rounded. And I always made sure I was there when they rounded so I could ask questions. I could hear what they're talking about. And also that they'd see me as an equal part of this care team. A lot of doctors don't, and that's just a doctor thing. But yeah, I would encourage, and I talk about in the book, advocating for your baby. That's A. That is the very first thing I put in the book is advocating.
Advocating indeed. So, Miss Tammy, guilt, fear, and trauma are near universal experience for preemie parents. How do you guide parents to process these overwhelming emotions without letting them define the entire narrative of their child's birth?
Excellent question, Daniel. I'm going to take those separately. So, guilt is, I'm going to put that on the side and talk about that first. Fear and trauma go hand in hand. So, I'll talk about that second. Um, I was guilty. I'm human. And I was in the hospital on bed rest for 5 weeks before the twins were born. And I spent 5 weeks feeling incredibly guilty about everything, about the divorce. Was that, it was stress. They say that stress causes you to go into preterm labor in general. Yeah, I was really stressed out. I was getting divorced. I was trying to like manage two kids. I had an unexpected but really happy pregnancy. I was suddenly pregnant. So I was, like I said, on bed rest. Like, is this because of me? Like, did I do this? And I realized not during those 5 weeks, but after the twins were born, after the first probably week, I realized that it was done for me. It wasn't done to me. I didn't do anything to bring this about. It was just what the universe intended. So I was able to release that guilt piece. Um, I'm not a therapist. So if parents are experiencing that guilt, I always, number one, turn to my journal and put it out on paper. And then number two, really think about, like, I just decided I'm the best messenger to have premature babies under this circumstance, which also took away the guilt. The fear and the trauma is such a huge thing, Daniel, to even do in our short time together. I'm launching an entire course on overcoming fear because it was so prevalent 24 hours a day in my life. But what this is all I would say about fear for now is if you see things as they are right now, not worse than they are and not better than they are. If you're just living very presently in this moment, your fear will begin to be quiet because your fear is caused by anticipation. Like, what if this happens? What if the doctor tells me this? What if this happens? You're so busy thinking about the worst and anticipating that you're forgetting that your power is right here in this moment right now. So, again, see things as they are, not worse than they are, and not better than they are.
Let's talk about the practical philosophy and the NICU journey, Ms. Tammy. One of your 26 ways likely involves finding a voice. How can a parent, in the midst of a medical complexity and authority, effectively advocate for their baby and themselves without fear of being labeled difficult?
I think I was labeled difficult for sure, but they ended up liking me. No, I think so. You're finding your voice is the very first chapter, which is advocate, Daniel, which is what you said. And advocating, I for me, it started with wanting the very best for my babies. Always have, and all of my kids. In order to get the very best for your babies, you have to find your voice. You have to ask questions. Nobody gets a shiny gold star for pretending they know the answers when we actually know nothing. So, asking great questions, asking follow on questions, that's a very simple way to start advocating. So, if they tell you, like, okay, we're going to do this procedure, why? What are the alternatives? What are the potential risks? If this were your kid, what would you do? That was my favorite question that I asked all the time. If this were your baby, what would you do? So that's the first piece of advocating. I would also say, and there is a chapter in the book about this, don't go down the wormhole of Google or AI trying to, search medical terms and procedures. And this is what they told me, and this is what I'm looking for. At the end of the day, every baby is completely different. And you are only going to freak yourself out by looking up stuff on the internet. One of the principles of advocating is instead of asking the computer, ask your doctor or ask your nurse. Um, Really important. And I also think it's important to advocate so the doctors know that you are on equal footing as them. They're not, I've said it before, I told the story in my book, like they're not God, they're doctors. So you are on equal stance, equal footing, and maybe more because that's your baby. At the end of the day, that's your child to make decisions for. So I don't, hopefully that makes sense. But
Makes sense, Miss Amy. So the concept of milestones take on a different meaning. How can a parent reframe a developmental timeline to celebrate their preemie unique progress without constant shadow of the corrected age chart?
so in the hospital, they have a real age and what they call an adjusted age. The develop for kids that don't have developmental issues or any sort of special needs, we use their real age, right? Daniel, you have a, let's say you have a son that's 6. They're just 6. When you have a some sort of a special need or developmental disability, they look at the adjusted age. So if your son had like my son has autism, so on the books, he's 19 years old. In life, he's probably closer to, I don't know. It depends. Like uh, probably like 8-year old, I would say. So, oh boy, that was a tough question. I really had to think about that one. So
Hmm.
that whole thing of milestones, it depends on who your child is. But I can tell you immediately that as soon as I saw the situation in the hospital, I knew that nothing was going to be quote unquote normal. So I have 2 older kids. They were ahead of their milestones. They were on target, on point. It was never a consideration. I think for me, and this might have just been like my way of dealing with it, I just threw the milestones out the window because Trey didn't take his first step on his own without the assistance of equipment until he was like 4, maybe 5. That was the first time he pulled up and stood on the side of the couch and took a little step. And by the way, he was on a ventilator with a trach on oxygen. So that was a tremendous, that little step was such a huge accomplishment and entirely inspiring. So, Daniel, I say all that to say that sometimes the milestones don't make a difference. Just forward progress is what makes a difference.
Forward progress indeed. So, Miss Tammy, how can a parents and NICU staff best communicate the form of true partnership? What should a parent ask and what information they should protectively share about their baby's cues?
Hmm. Well, again, I can only tell you from my experience. From the minute I walked into the NICU, by the way, which was a week after they were born because I was really sick. From the minute I walked in, I found their nurse who was amazing. Her name is Gail. We still keep in touch. I said to Gail, Gail said to me, "Do you want to know what you missed?" And I just started laughing. I said, "Yeah, give me the highlight reel." So she started to, we went baby by baby. She explained every single thing that happened, why I couldn't see them, and what the plan was for the next day or so. Because when they're born that early, they only do like 1 or 2 days in advance. And I told her, I will do anything for my babies, including whatever you need. So if you tell me what you need, I will make sure I get it for you. If you need, literally anything, I said it to her. I said it to the doctors. I said it to the social worker. I'll do whatever I can to support my babies, but also the other babies because we were in an open unit. So that became, listen, when I started drafting my book, I actually took it with me to the NICU and I read a couple of chapters to the moms. They were like, keep going. Like, that's brilliant. So I think there's partnership with your medical team, and there's also partnership with the community, which would be other families, other caregivers that have babies in the same situation. So yeah, I think just being open to building new relationships.
Building a new relationship, indeed. So let's talk about the transition home long term vision, Ms. Tammy. The transition home is often described as a more terrifying than the NICU. What are the key emotional and practical preparations parents can make to navigate this shift from monitored support to primary responsibility?
Mm. Uh, I'll tell you my story of bringing Trey home. Uh, so Trey spent 9 months in the NICU, and then he outgrew it. So they moved him to the pediatric intensive care unit where he stayed for uh, 4 months. And the whole goal in the PICU was to bring down his ventilator settings low enough so I could bring him home because they told me that he had a very poor prognosis of living. So I said, if he's not going to live, he's not going to live at home. He's not going to do that in the hospital. So we were all on the same page, just get his ventilator setting so I could bring him home. And then we started to get close, and you have to take a test before they let you take your baby home, especially when they're critical, like Trey was. So I had to learn how to change his G tube. I had to learn how to, put his trach back in if it came out. I had to learn literally how to take care of him the way other people had been taking care of him for 18 months. So when the day came for me to go pick him up, I completely fell apart. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't get myself to get in the car. And I called my cousin and she came with me to go pick him up. So my immediate thing was like, wow, I've been wanting for 18 months to just bring him home and show him where he lives and show him his room. And the minute actually came and I completely panicked and crumbled. So I got to the facility and I was shaking and I was hesitant. And the director of the facility came over and she said, "Are you okay?" I said, "This is like the worst example of be careful what you wish for. Like, I've been wishing for this and praying for this. And now, what if I get him home and something happens? What if I get him home and I can't do what they do here?" So she took me into her office and we closed the door. And she said, like, "Tell me everything you're feeling right now." And it was pure terror. That was like the only feeling I could come up with, terror and fear of being alone by myself with him and with the other kids. So she just very gently said to me, "Tammy, we would never let Trey go home with you if we didn't think both of you were ready." And I was like, okay. And when she said that, I don't know, I got like a sense of calm that came over me. And when we got home, I carried him around the house. I showed him like our house. I showed him his siblings' rooms, showed him his room. And on the way down the stairs, I slipped and I fell with him in my arms and all of that equipment down like 4 steps. That was literally within my first hour of having him home. So I got myself together. I made sure he was okay. Nothing came out that was supposed to, be out. And then I just decided if this is the worst thing that happens, I mean, there's only one worse thing that can happen. But we fell down the stairs. We've been home for 45 minutes. We both survived it. Everything's going to be okay. So I think
Yes.
you just have to give yourself grace. Like, it is super scary bringing them home, but just I
Mhm.
think own your fear. Like, just honor your feelings, and then surround yourself with people that will boost you with confidence, like your doctors and the nurses and the social workers. So yeah.
Yes, so Miss Tammy, as an entrepreneur as well as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Um, so as an author, I want to bring parents of premature babies together as well as other women, and I want to host a wine o'clock once a month. It's called Wine O'Clock. You could bring a glass of wine, or you could bring a drink, or you could just bring some water, but it's your chance to wine and vent in a very structured environment. So I'm excited about that. I'm launching that in February. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I am really excited to. I'm in conversation with lots of complex, high risk organizations that want me to come in and help them create some calm in the storm and create some direction for their teams. So my goal is to bring on 5 fantastic clients where I can make an impact in their organization, a measurable impact. I am getting back on stages this year. So I booked a speaking engagement to teach young speakers how to sell from the stage. I'm doing course development. I have a digital marketing course. I have a course about overcoming fear. So Daniel, I'm really excited for 2026, and I would encourage your listeners to find me on socials, Tami Gaines. My website is tamigaines.com. Like connect with me because I feel like there's great things that are going to happen this year, and I'd love to play in the sandbox with all of you.
Yes, great thing for sure. And good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. Miss Tammy, so what would your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
For people that want to be like me,
Yes, please.
think twice about that. There's lots of other people in the world that you could emulate. Um, I'm sorry, Daniel, I have to explain like me how. I
hmm
don't even know how to answer that question.
But anyway, how about those people want to be an author like you?
I think there's a great story in everybody. I think it takes a lot of courage to tell your real story. So I embrace authors that are authentic and transparent and willing to put it all out there on paper I'm old school on paper or on like, digital. It starts with having the confidence to just pick up your pen and paper and write anything down. And I would start with something you're passionate about. I had a little bit of a head start with this book because it wasn't my idea. The doctors and the nurses asked me to write it. So I've written other books that were my idea. So I have a series of books about, it's called Life Lessons from the Garden. And it's all about what you can learn about life while you're in your garden doing gardening, building a foundation, weeding your garden, getting bad relationships out of your life. So I'm passionate about gardening and I'm passionate about helping people. So, how about this, Daniel? Start with a piece of paper and make a list of everything that you love. Even if you don't do it all the time, it could be cooking, it could be like you like hiking and new paths, whatever. Write down everything that you're passionate about, narrow it down to 10, narrow that down to 5, narrow that down to 3, and from those 3, get some feedback on what you should write about, what would be interesting for the market.
That'd be interesting. Interesting indeed, Miss Tammy. So, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in its third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101, Review Music 101 are fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101, fourth season, and my Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and Bibles versus 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Miss Tammy, ultimately, this journey redefines strength. How do you hope parents come to redefine success and strength for themselves by the end of this experience beyond simply in their baby survivals?
Sorry, sorry, Daniel, I didn't quite understand the question. Did you ask about co-parent?
Yes. So, how do you hope parents come to redefine success and strength for themselves by the end of this experience, beyond simply their baby survival?
Yeah, I love that question because at the end of the book, like fundamentally, this book is all about finding your inner strength and becoming, growing through your challenges, not just going through them. So those skills that you develop while you're in the NICU translate into life. So I look at everything very differently. Um, I find strength that I never thought I had while I was in the NICU. And that
Mm-hmm.
carries through. It carries through in business. It carries through in my relationships. Um, so I think that's important. What you experience in the NICU emotionally and spiritually, and as you grow, those are all completely transferable skills and emotions into your other life, long after your babies are out of the NICU. So
Yes, that's so powerful, empowering, Miss Tammy. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world through your
thank,
book. So can you
thank
please invite
you.
yes, so can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, I think the easiest clearinghouse for all things Tammy Gaines is to go to my website, TammyGaines.com. And I'm also on IG. I just started on TikTok, so feel free to follow me on TikTok and tell me how I'm doing. It's
Mm-hmm.
at Tammy Gaines 8. So
Mm-hmm.
go easy on me. I just started. But anyway, yes, I'm on the socials. I find my website. I respond to everybody, so please reach out and connect. I'd love to meet you.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Tammy Gaines because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to rise. So, Miss Tammy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Likewise, more to come, people. See you soon.